All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are doing the round 4 match review for WPL 2023. And we're just going to start out with our shout outs for the week. So Dan Frankenfeld, Peter told me you did an awesome job syncing your audio to your video. So if there's some secrets that you want to share with us, please do. Shout out to Kat Sum, who is not currently on the call, and I need to remember to send her this awesome photograph if she hasn't seen it of herself stepping in and doing the first 20 minutes of a WPL match for Amelia when there was some traffic problems between Boston and New York. So thank you, Kat Sum. And then Tim Liu helped out Mike apparently this weekend. I don't know how, but problems got solved and I didn't have to do it. So that's awesome. Good job, team. Anybody have anything else? Cool. Results for the week. We've got Life West and Beantown there with just a 2-point margin. We have a tie. I'm sure Amelia is going to talk to us about that later. And then we've got 529 there with Amazon's Colorado, which isn't a bad spread for the league. So that's great. Here's what our standings look like. Beantown and the Grey Wolves there tied at top, but as you can see, Beantown's played 3 and the Grey Wolves have played 4. And then Berkeley drops this week. They were in first up until now. So that's what it's looking like. Some random things I need to remind you guys of. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so if everybody can make sure they're muted, that would help me. We need to, when we send our emails to the ops managers, make sure that we confirm jersey colors. We've had, I think, 2 weeks with similar jersey colors. So when you send that email to the home team, just CC the away team and ask them even to the point of sending you a picture of what their jersey looks like so you can determine whether there's a clash or not. That's a good idea. First 6 weeks of match fees, I will process those after this week. So you should probably see them by the end of the month, I would imagine. Tracy will get it paid at the end of the month. And then for those of you who didn't see, I shipped out the kit. So you should have that. Some of you will have it as soon as this weekend. And then I think California, you all might be Monday. So yay. Any comments? Any other miscellaneous stuff people need to say? Cool. Match reviews.
Amanda, can I go first?
You can, 100%.
I may have to hop off in a little bit.
Understood. Here you are.
Thank you.
Sure.
So as Amanda said, I arrived late to the match. So Kat did the first 20 minutes until the water break. She had refereed the B-side game prior, so she was a little bit tired, especially because it was a hot day. It was in the 80s. But I thought she did a pretty good job. It was interesting coming in at 20 minutes and thinking about how the teams have already decided kind of how they were going to play based on the referee's standard. They were kind of shocked to see me at 20 minutes being a different referee. And it showed in the first like 5 to 10 minutes. One, my positioning was off, I think, because I was settling in and I overran the breakdown a bit in the beginning. But then as they got used to me, they, adjusted and the game seemed to get better as we went on. So New York scored the first 5 points and then Berkeley scored pretty much, I think 2 or 3 tries, and then New York kind of clawed their way back, including a really exciting finish. Overall, it was a really fun game to
Amelia. Yeah. I didn't look closely. I watched your game before it was tagged. Do these stats include what Kat did or not? I'm guessing
they do not. I didn't include anything from hers.
Cool. Yep, just checking. Thank you.
She had several holding on penalties, which was interesting because if you can, I don't know if you could see my game plan there, but one of the things I was trying to do was allow the players kind of to decide 50-50 ball and not really call penalties there, but kind of allow the more aggressive player to win the ball in those situations. Whereas she was calling it a bit faster. So that was part of the adjustment. But yeah, if you look at that penalty count, it's pretty biased against Berkeley. We had several foul play penalties in the second half, and a couple of them were against the same player who I ended up yellow carding. I think that's it for me.
Cool. Miles, did you have anything to say?
Not really. I mean, I have my kind of narrative of Amelia's performance, not so much of the game, but you know, the whole showing up 20 minutes late thing, I think had a bearing on it significantly. Like, you know, Amelia got there kind of cold, and then it was a shaky start, right, as anyone would be. He kind of flustered and then kind of got better as the game went on, but otherwise it's all just coaching notes. It was actually a good game, and one drawn with a conversion at full time, so it was pretty good.
Okay. So to the clips then.
So the first one is just a calibration for us as referees. It's scrum one. So New York was feeding quite a bit. I asked the scrum half not to do it anymore, and she didn't. But I noticed it when Kat was refereeing, which was lucky for me. And then she did it once when I was refereeing as well. So I guess my question is, do we want to call a free kick here? Or do we want to manage first and then free kick on the next one?
Yeah, and we can watch this clip, but we agreed with the teams at the beginning of the season that we would manage the first one. We would like to ask the 9 to be square to the scrum. And then after that, we'll free kick, manage one each for both sides.
Okay, that makes sense. This for me, I mean, it doesn't even touch
Yeah.
a player's foot at all. She just kind of rolls it through.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can all agree it's obviously not a credible feed, but like it wasn't sanctioned. And I know Kat's not in the WPL referee group, but just be aware. Like, I know kind of everyone's, even myself included, kind of hesitant to call that, but stuff, if it's blatant like that, you got to ping them.
Miles, the one that you clipped, is this the same? Or is
Yes,
this
it's the
from
same one.
Amelia's game?
Yep, it's the
Okay.
same one.
Okay.
Yep, managed free kick PK. I just put on there just the process. Yep.
Super. Does anyone have questions about that? Is everybody pretty happy? Okay.
I'm good with it, but then this is Rosalind. So there was
Yes.
one in Mike's game as well. Would it be useful
was.
to get it and see if it's same or different, or just move on?
Do we want to go look at that now?
Yeah, let's look at that for context.
I actually almost clipped it because I thought it was the same.
It looks pretty similar to me as well. You want to find it? Oh, you're good.
Let's see if we can find it.
I did note that I noted on their feed. There might have been a couple, but I know for one item.
Yeah, there was definitely one. Next scrum. That's an early push.
Yeah, keep going. It says feed.
There's 40 scrums, so you got a lot to go through.
Yeah, you made it.
40.
30.
We
I'm not
tied.
finding it. Here, feed
Yeah.
angle. So that one's not as egregious. She's actually kind of square to start with.
Yeah, then she does that last minute turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a trigger, but if they had been warned once, would you free kick that one?
If I'd warned at this first one, then I would feel obligated to free kick at the next one. See how we can read the full number here before she puts it in. Let's see. So to me, she's still fairly square to the scrum. What does the group think?
I think it's the way she rolls it in, though, is like facing her team. It's not toward her side, but going down the middle line.
Okay.
So for me, if that were the second one, yes, I would free kick it, or I would warn her if I noticed that.
Okay. whatever standard we set in our game, we've got to stick with. So let's make sure if we warn, it's clear. Melody.
Quick question on that. If the scrums are struggling, are we more lenient on feeds sometimes, or do we stick that standard?
So the whole world is moving towards pretty lenient scrums. Like I'm rarely seeing anything free kicked anymore.
Like in the last 30 years?
Well, no, I mean, I'm more in the last 3, but yeah, I think we want to be careful. We are going to ask them to start square to the scrum, and we are going to free kick it on the next one. So, and if it's been a while since you gave the warning, maybe you warn a second time, or if you have a different 9.
I like what you always say though about clear and obvious. I mean, when it's so clear and obvious, like that first one, where
Right.
they're sideways and there. This one, we've seen a lot worse that can get going, but
Yeah.
I understand.
Can I also ask Amanda if like some of this is context as well for us? Like if we're competing at the scrum, if we feel like we can compete with that front row, it's much more egregious to have a sort of excessive feed than it
Okay.
is if we are trying to hold our own in the scrum and just trying to we're actually not intentionally trying to push or drive through that scrum. But if we're trying to actually compete at that scrum and you're seeing teams trying to counter that as a defensive scrum, then it does make it much more difficult to argue like for allowing that feed to happen.
Right.
I
That's
guess.
a very interesting contextual point, Hannah. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Does everybody kind of understand that?
Yeah, it's a brilliant point actually, because if the feed's not remotely credible, then it kind of defeats the purpose of the scrum and
Right.
the pushing contest. So,
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Hannah. Anybody else have thoughts? Okay. So let's remember that and take that context into account as we move forward. Millie, what's next?
She just messaged that she had to hop off.
Oh, okay.
oh, yeah, so let's go to the foul play one. So this is actually an example of like pretty much textbook
Oh, yeah.
like process as far as head contact protocol. So
No
if you've got the sound, that would be good
Okay.
to listen to this one. I just want people to see it because it's not usually executed like this.
Here it is. This might be super loud for people. When I start it, it comes across pretty crazy.
Got no sound.
Well, I'm not hearing anything.
You're not hearing this?
Yeah, no sound.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me optimize sound when I screen share because I'm hearing it. I'm not hearing you guys. Let's see. There we go. This is why. Then what happened to my... All right, we'll try again.
Richardson 2-0
Hearing it now?
Good.
Good.
wins with the offload to Salud.
22, come here, please.
Come here, guys. Looks like it might be a card.
That's upright, indirect head
Yellow
contact.
card.
Hold, please. You're making a sub.
Yeah, I'm stopping, sorry. High tackle.
All right. Anything else on that, Miles?
No, so everyone heard the communication. So does everyone understand what she was saying there? Upright, indirect head contact. So what she's saying is the tackler made no attempt to like bend at the hip or knees to make the tackle. She just came in upright. So in that circumstance, the tackler is basically at fault, right? So that's why she said upright. The started here, kind of hit her here and then got her in the head, so that's a yellow card. So it's just a good example, I think, good example of that.
Yep. Well done.
Oh, I've got one more clip. There's
I
one more
know.
clip
I
there
love this
somewhere.
one. No,
Oh
this is-
yes.
Yep.
This is kind of for discussion. I'm not even going to talk about it. Just
I don't even think there's a discussion, but yeah, should we just watch it?
Jade McGrath is all over the kick. Oh, and just gets knocked into touch, but still.
Okay, did everybody see that? We got an intentional knock into touch. And if we
Jade
pause
McGrath
it,
is all over the.
we also have like a pod of 3 Berkeley players here who were probably in a position to make a good run at scoring a try. I'm not saying this is a probable try. What I am saying is it has to be a yellow card. We'll watch it one more time.
yeah. So Amelia gave a penalty here, so obviously, you know.
Yeah.
We need to think about this.
Questions,
And just
comments, or
remember
concerns?
the infringement, you know, in the 5 meter, the mark for the penalties on the 15. So Amelia did it on the 5 meter here, but just make sure you're in 15 for the penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. That should have been in 15.
Good
I
point.
have to be honest, guys. My first reaction was like, is that a penalty try?
Oh, you thought penalty try?
That was my first reaction before anybody said anything. But
Okay, I wouldn't argue.
My
if the
reaction
referee
was
gave a penalty try.
I thought she knocked it backwards towards her own team, but maybe it's just the angle that I'm seeing. But would that even be anything?
Well, we can't knock the ball into touch.
Yeah, went straight into touch.
It's going to be a
So if it
personal
was-
foul,
Just
cynical.
for
Right.
context, she did knock it backwards into touch. So it was not a forward knock on. And it's tough to see with the lines, but we were still probably 10 meters out from scoring. So in my mind, this is not a penalty try. Just like personally, I don't think there's any way we could have given a penalty try because there was no guarantee of Berkeley scoring from this. But it definitely was like a penalty and quite possibly a yellow card. I think that's the argument from my end.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think you can go penalty on try on that because you don't know where that pass is going.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
do
it
need.
might end up bouncing
thinking
around
about it.
15 meters in.
Yeah, thinking about it is not a bad thing. So I'm glad we penalized it. I would have been very pleased with the yellow card here.
Yep, I agree. Those are the 3 clips I had. I don't know if Amelia put any more in. But it was, like I said, a good game. It
Yeah.
was good.
Those were great.
Can I ask Amanda, just before
Yes.
we move on?
Yes.
Appreciate everybody starting with this since I have to get to training with
Yeah,
folks.
just-
But I'm curious. I know WPL is not in charge of the number 4s, and we are, or like you're not in charge of the number 4s.
Mhm.
So there was a situation in this game where New York made a substitution for an injured player by bringing a player who had started back on that was not a front row substitution. So they brought their number 8 back onto the field to play for, I think, probably at least the last 10 minutes of the game. And it was simply an injury substitution for a player who had come off injured, but they brought their starter back on, the number 8. I talked to Tiff during this, and I'm not going to like report anything. I'm not worried about that, but I think that it's like the law is pretty clear that that is only in the case of a front row player. If I'm correct.
blood. Presumably no blood involved.
No blood involved. This was simply an injury replacement.
Then you're absolutely right.
Could
Yeah,
also be a head injury.
So
just
in theory, I mean, it's one of the things I know in terms of how I sort of think of substituting, and we often quite have fresh legs on at minute 55 or 60 at the most. And so I understand if there's an injury in the last 20 minutes, unless it's a front row player, that I'm not able to bring anybody back on. So I guess I'm just curious if we have both sort of shared that and
Well,
how we might be able to enforce that.
I would
Uh,
report it to the league, Hannah.
Yeah,
It has
yeah, it's
nothing
not
to do
something,
with
it's not
referees.
something I don't want to contest the game because I think there's a, you know, there's a factor in here just about like our own ownership of our own game that I'm not interested in sort of complaining, I guess. I'm just curious if there is any sort of conversation with the referees or, you know, for Amelia, for instance, who is on the field bringing a number 8 back in. Are we noticing that? Are we seeing that? Should that be something that the center referee is able to address in the moment?
Yeah, usually when we have a number 4, we are not tracking subs. So the onus is on the number 4. Now, if the number 4 has a question, like they're trying to bring a prop back on, then we would get involved.
Hannah, I don't think it's a bad idea just to let the league know to raise awareness. To your point, you're not trying to point fingers, but overall, it raises awareness. I think that's fine because then everyone says, huh, yeah, that's not allowed. And then they will educate their number 4. Remember this component, you could really help here.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, in our scenario with the WPL, all of our number 4s are going to be home team folks. Like I had this conversation with Tiff and I am 100% certain that Tiff knows that that's not a legal substitution. But it is still something, I guess, like how do we regulate that, or do we regulate that from the center referee, or are we relying, and is it something that we need to push more with the WPL to have a number 4 who is able to like know those laws? Because
Yeah.
I think in general, it's basically just somebody who's taking substitution cards and doesn't actually know that.
Right. So let's you and I continue this conversation offline. Is that good? And then
Yep,
figure out
no problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry to
how
take
we-
time.
how
I
we
appreciate
move
Amanda.
forward.
y'all. Yeah,
Amanda,
I appreciate y'all.
Thank you,
Amanda.
Hannah. Jamie, yes.
Yeah,
Good.
sorry, Jamie Greggy here. Just one thing for the referees on the call. Absolutely, we should talk about the process, and we'll leave that to you two offline. Just want to make sure everyone's aware. Yes, front row player, yes, blood injury, but there are also 2 other categories. So a player with a head injury can be replaced by a player who's previously been tactically replaced, and also a player who has been injured as the result of foul play can be replaced by that player as well. So there's 4 categories that allow for that sub transfer. So I just wanted to make real clear that everyone's aware that there's 4 categories there that you can allow that player back on.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Thanks, Hannah. So if we're all done with Millie, Mike Lawrenson, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Take it away.
All right, so fun game, really great weather. Knew it was gonna be a tough one, so definitely set out to set some standards early. Definitely noticed that in the beginning I found myself in the wrong spot just because Life West like to offload a lot more than other teams. So took it upon myself to kind of step back a little bit more and let them flow before I really stepped in or stepped into my position, and then just adapted. One thing we talked about, Roz and I, was, you know, sometimes when you start focusing on these other things, it's kind of like Murphy's Law, the things that you're not focusing on start to slide. So for me, lineups has always been, you know, as my passion, is what I always did. And I noticed that in this game, Roz actually notices that the receiver, not the receiver, the person in the channel was about sometimes 10 meters back, sometimes 5 meters back, definitely changed. And I wasn't focused there because I was focusing on just other stuff. So got to go back to my processes and just kind of lean on those. So that was good to kind of see that. You know, I would never thought that would have been an issue for me, but clearly was. Had a lot of scrums, and I definitely noticed that throughout the game. I felt like I was doing something wrong, and so I really worked hard on creating some space. But the issue was mostly just, low skills. I thought, trying to offload too many times, just trying to push it too much. And these teams are both so good that whenever there was a knock on it, it was handled right away. It was like recovered. It wasn't allowed. I couldn't find advantage to play off of that. My biggest issue was probably the scrum penalties. We know when you have a high scrum count like this, teams are both very competitive in the scrums. So yeah, I put a few clips in here. I had some fun clips. I had a penalty try. I had, some down to the wire stuff, and rather than challenge me to put more stuff that I feel like we can learn from, rather than just these one-off clips, which I agree with. So I have some scrum clips. They're in chronological order, and just they're all the ones with issues. So don't think that all the scrums are like this. A lot of scrums are stable, sweet, and I just wanted to talk about these ones and see if you think that I should have elevated earlier, or if I should have gone to, a yellow card, try and set the tone why are these penalties happening, and I can describe the context as well as we go along.
Okay, and I just want to say I loved your penalty try.
Thank you. They didn't seem to understand it, but I hope I got it right. So yeah, number one, yeah, perfect. So I think this is one of the first scrums of the day. So yeah, clearly an issue. I'm almost ready to penalize, but the ball's at the back and we play out of it. And so I recognize, okay, I'm gonna have a chat with them next scrum. I'm gonna really focus on this side. I can see that the loose side on this side is under pressure on the red side, Beantown. So I'm just gonna watch it. But the problem is that the ball's at the back, so I'm like, just play it. Why are you taking so long to play it? At the same time. So
Yeah, I think it was pretty reasonable to play away here.
So also this at this point, I recognize that the 8 is unbinding early. You can see that, and the 8 and the 7 both,
Yeah,
So
there was a lot of this, not just in your game. So the 7.
7, yeah, and 8.
She's a
Six
bit more
was
of a
also
problem.
off, but not material.
Right. So the next one, we don't have to get, there's a lot of them, so we don't have to spend too much time on each one. You kind of go through goals more, the context of like, okay, now I'm at this side, I'm watching the contest here.
Do you want to talk, or did you want me to play it?
No, go ahead, play it.
Okay, we won't be able to hear you.
Somebody else is doing this.
So she kicked it away, and so I pushed. I already got an advantage here from 6 or 7 leaving early. This is after I won the 8, not specifically the 7, but I said it in earshot of the 7, so she knew. But what they were complaining about is that this 9 rearranged the ball. Is the ball out? Because she does that.
Yeah, she does.
So yeah, then incorrect call then. But I was hoping to play away from this advantage, but because she kicked it away, I got cornered back to go back to my spot.
Yeah, Hannah had a question in the chat that we might want to look at too.
Okay.
I don't know if she's still on.
Does she mean being in the pocket? I'm assuming.
I
have-
think
Yeah,
so.
sorry. Yeah,
I had a couple
being in
notes about that,
um,
actually.
being in that channel,
Yeah.
sort of repeatedly, I think we might have had a different scrum half, but I've seen it across most games where there is a lot of pressure coming on the 9 still from that like 6 to 8 pocket channel. And from my understanding, that is no longer a place where the opposing 9 can place themselves.
Absolutely.
I think Roz has a question as well.
Oh, no, I was gonna comment that it was great because Mike was wearing a voice recorder and it worked for the first half, which was excellent. And he actually did address that and told her to stay out of that little pocket. So, and then in this clip, she was not there. I think this is the clip. Like after he said it, she didn't do it. That I saw.
So when you blew the penalty for the flanker off early here,
Yes.
but you played advantage first. Do you think
Yeah. And
calling the
after-
penalty made an impact?
Yes, and I was talking to Roz about it. It should have been, if I'm going to penalize this, it's immaterial, really. If I'm going to penalize it, I got to penalize it right away.
That's what I think too. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Definitely
Good
not
lesson.
a good advantage.
Scrum 3.
Sure.
Do you want to talk or you want me to play?
I honestly have lost track of where we're at. So let's just go for it and I can talk afterwards.
Okay, yeah, I'll leave the audio on since we can hear you.
So again, another one that was kind of iffy. Life West definitely drove early here, but balls at the back, I just used it as an opportunity to let's move on. But the next one I'll speak to them about driving early. So these are these issues that I'm having, and the question I'm putting to the group is, do I need to escalate earlier, or my penalty count is high already? Do I just want to get out of here? And then, but what happens is now I deal with this all day, and it's one time it's Life West dominating, one time it's Beantown dominating, so it becomes very difficult to kind of find a trend where I can, give it down.
Yeah, I agree. You did have some back and forth with the trends. This one looks like a bit of an early drive.
Hey, it's Tim. This also just looks like that loose head just coming around, up and around. I mean, the classic loose head taking an angle up and around.
Up and
As well
across.
as
Yeah.
the drive.
What else we got?
Hey Amanda, it's Mose.
Yes. Hi, Mose. How are you?
I'm good. Just real quick about the scrums because we have this problem. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. Our game against Chicago and Michael was the referee. I'm having trouble to understand. I understand. We work so hard on trying to dominate scrums and stuff and not get rewarded with it. Our penalty count was 21-6 against Chicago and 2 yellow card, and mostly was in scrums. When you are dominating in scrums going forward, like legal scrum, and we get penalized for standing up, or like we're going forward and the ball is playable, right? Question to Michael, because for the first scrum that you just showed, me as if I was refereeing that, I would penalize the team right away and then solve the problem now instead of you just wait for another scrum to do that, because it's going to continue. And then you just mentioned on the third one, you're just going to wait for the next one over. Penalize the team, and then we pride ourselves in scrummaging. Like forwards pride themselves. They get penalty, oh my God, they go crazy. We get a penalty because they did what they needed to do, right? And for us to not rewarding that right away, it's just going to prolong, and then it's going to have question what is he looking for? We're pushing forward. Yes, of course they have the ball available, but then we're dominating this scrum, right? Like you said in the first one, okay, I'm just going to let that one go. Don't let it go. like penalize right away so that we know what to work on. And you saying like on the next one, the next scrum is going to be like 20 minutes down the game, and you know we haven't fixed the problem. So you know.
So the reason we wouldn't penalize at this first scrum is because, first of all, the scrum is just a way to start the ball back into play, right? It's Beantown's scrum.
Yeah.
And despite anything that may have gone wrong in there, nothing was that bad, right? And Beantown still retains the ball and still has a platform at the back that they can play from. So we wouldn't penalize this one.
Yeah,
If
just to echo that, because Mosa and I talked after the game as well. You know, it's that context thing. You know, sometimes at the ruck you get someone that's not rolling away, and so you know, does it affect the ball enough that I need to penalize this? Sometimes no, and that's a referee's discretion. You know, and that's where I kind of find myself in these, and that's why I'm kind of putting the question to the group. I felt like I did these correctly rather than challenge me on that, and so we're kind of seeing, okay, do I need to pick up my calls, or do we need, as a team, you know, as a WPL refs, need to pick up the calls earlier? But in this case, you know, I'm just showing you all the bad ones. I don't know if you heard that in the beginning. These are not all the, you know, some of the scrums were perfect, really great, and each time is going to be a challenge, and that's a great thing. It's a challenge. I just got to make sure it's within the legal, it's within the laws. So some of these I think are outside the laws. Some of them are close along the line. So I feel like I can defend. Okay, you know, I'm just going to manage that next time so it doesn't go to that line again. And then some of them, you know, there's no help. I need to step in. But as a referee, I try and pride myself on stepping in less than stepping in more, because it just becomes a whistle fest. And sometimes even stepping in too early sometimes can confuse players. So these are just the ones that I thought were difficult for me, and just how I challenged myself to say, okay, should I have called this one or should I have not?
Mose, I appreciate your comments. And I will say, we did discuss last week, we do want to reward the dominant team if we see a clear forward drive.
Yeah. Like, you know, I'm up for, like, you know, good legal rummaging and stuff, and not rewarding and stuff, you know, and it happens, like, you know, some of these girls will end up in the Premiership League, and we want to make sure that they're on the road on being successful as scrummagers and stuff, and going there, they're ready for whatever, you know, that they're gonna go to, and we need to rough it. And another
100%.
thing is, yeah, so and the game is all about physicality, and we have to, like, you know, we manage these. It's gonna be physical. There's gonna be hits everywhere. There's gonna be scrummaging. There's gonna hit and stuff, and we can't like penalize being physical and that stuff. Because this is what happened was I was playing, because we went overseas and we got smashed all over the place. The referee's like, "Oh, you good?" I'm like, "Yeah," because the refereeing has been like why is it so rough? Like, we gotta be able to to reward these guys, because, you know, and this is where the areas that we really want to scrummaging. If we
Yep. Any scrums that you have a problem with in your game, 100% tag it in advantage, and you know, you and I can have a conversation about it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike, what's next?
Yeah, just more scrums, more trends that I'm picking up here, and just thinking of at what point should we be thinking of manage this. Yeah, it's just telling a story here of like, okay, we're probably at scrum 16 in the game, but this is my 7th scrum with an issue.
Well, with 30 scrums, I met at minute 60. You're at like 20.
Oh, true. Yeah, we're at minute 60. Sorry. Yeah, and a change of front row as well. You know, as soon as it's a change of front row, there's always something you got to notice. So now that I had a trend sitting, and then all of a sudden they change the front row, do I continue? You know, if this player collapses as well, even though their front row sub, it's their first scrum, is that a yellow card? No. So now I have to almost restart my trend counter.
Absolutely. So
Mike, you're asking about, you know, should you manage or should you penalize? one way to answer that is how successful was the managing? Did the issues that you managed go away? Or did you have to deal with them again?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because Roz and I talked about that. I would say, instead of just penalizing anything, I would say to the player, okay, I need you to stay square. And if she didn't stay square, then I would immediately go to the whistle. So I kind of try to, each scrum, I was, almost managing each a different player for the different infraction they were somewhat doing in the last scrum, just to try and manage it. But sometimes it would be a new player, it's just this scrum, she got very frustrated and wanted to try something new because, like, for example, I didn't throw this one in, but one of the players, she tried to dominate, and then when she couldn't move her, she just stood up. And so that was an issue. So I had to speak to her about that. But, first I had to penalize, and then we had to try and talk. So it was like a constant battle. And so I guess my question to the group is this just something we're going to deal with because they're just, challenging each other? Or how do we create more stable scrums? Is it a card? Does a card help here?
There was never a spot in this game where I felt like a card should have been given into the.
Yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
Roz and I talked about.
And you
because
didn't have a danger problem.
When you give a card at a scrum, it's because a prop is not. For me, is the front row player is not meant to be there, or is really struggling.
Yeah, there was no danger issue in these scrums either. This is just rugby, and I think you handled it fairly well. So don't beat yourself up too much. There's little lessons to be learned, like if you free kick the early drive quickly, then maybe you don't get another one. But yeah, don't be too rough on yourself. You had 30 scrums.
Sweet.
Should we look at any more, or we're at 9:44. So I would like, can you continue? Yeah, if you would continue this with Rosalind, and let's give Dan a chance.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
All right, Rosalind, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I'm just giving a thumbs up to what you said before, Amanda.
Okay, cool.
There wasn't like super clear things, but then, how to break it apart and come up with a process that's going to make it easier.
That's exactly it. And I hope you guys get a solid debrief with that, and, might go into the next one with a plan. So, all right, Dan, are you around?
Yes.
All right, talk us through this one.
All right. This was a little bit of a rainy day in Eagan, Minnesota. Both teams started out, and I'd say throughout the match, played a good amount of forward ball. Colorado had the majority of possession, and we had 30 scrums on the day. If you're looking at like tackle and ruck penalties, there are too many of them. They were not appropriately managed. Amazons were penalized early on for high tackles, and that's what all 3 yellow cards are for. So yeah, I think about 7 high tackles, and Colorado was penalized not a whole lot in the first 10 or 12 minutes, but then a lot all over the place. I failed to discern or take action on the trend. And I think it might have been a closer game, or certainly a morale booster for the Amazons if Colorado was carded for offsides or not 10 or a repeat infringement around the breakdown.
Okay, and I'm seeing we've got 13 to 22. So then I'm assuming also you identified some places where penalty kicks should not have been given, and we should have played through things.
I think we got a couple of those.
Okay.
Peter, do you?
Yeah, we did pick out a few that could have been. We also picked out a few that the ARs called in that were really, really marginal.
Okay.
That probably ARs should be, let the referee deal with that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So lessons.
Yeah. Other thing to call out, I think, is that we were at 0-5 at halftime. So felt like a close game for very first 60 minutes in my mind.
Yeah, even 5 to 29, I think, is pretty respectable.
Sweet.
Let's see, what do we have in here?
Goals for the match were set pieces, and the the one that is hard to name is identifying trends and patterns. So like foul play, repeat infringement. So I feel like I failed on the second, or growth opportunity, or however it needs to be framed.
Exactly. Better framing. Thank you.
Yep.
Did you want me to start? Can we start at scrum number 1, or did
Sure.
did you just, okay.
Yep.
And you've got audio on this, so we're gonna leave the sound on. Did you want to say anything before we started?
This is sort of carryover from the last game where you have a dominant team and I think there's a little disagreement over who's at fault when the scrum goes up a little. Looking for opinions.
Make sure you bring your foot back. Thank you. And then make sure you're driving straight, your hips came out. And then lastly, repeat full arm bind. Thank you. Crouch. Bind. Set.
Does anybody need to see that again? Does anybody have thoughts?
Were all of those things that you were asking of people to the same person, or was that 3 different people for 3 different things?
3 different people. Hooker,
Okay.
then
Like
loose
that.
head, then flanker.
Okay.
I think the penalty went the right way, just on first look.
So you liked driving up.
I like forward momentum. Let's have a look.
Team is going forward got penalized.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
If you zoom that in, I think you can see a little.
oh yeah,
better.
is it too far out for you all? Sorry. For me,
can-
that's enough of a forward shove by Colorado that they should have been rewarded. We can watch it here zoomed in. Sorry, y'all, just remind me. I do not think blue deserved this penalty.
I see blue going up from pressure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
And you see Colorado just following, you see Colorado go up a bit, but it's because blue's retreating and they stand up in the retreat.
Yeah. Blue under pressure. I'm not sure that warrants, that says, okay, then the other opposing prop can drive up and in. I don't know. Does it?
I didn't think she was driving up. I think she was following the stand up.
I see. Okay.
That's what I think too, because she's got a nice forward level shove for a step or two before she kind of pops up. And then she even seems to straighten it out again.
I agree with you, Amanda, and I think what the majority of people are saying that goes flat first, and then it starts to go with an they're not driving up. The back is going to collect on themselves or standing up. But I would caution against questioning whether the dominance from have got that penalty, because they could have been doing it illegally all along. So from the far view, I was happy with that. All the difference.
Okay.
There's one additional learning from that clip. You don't need to go back to it. My default position when I wasn't trying to solve something that was clearly identified as like, this is a problem, was to be on the side of the scrum halves. And Peter's counsel was like, why not make it the other side, right? We talked about the the defensive loose head before. And if I'm making that call, it's much more credible from the side that's driving up.
That's an excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Next up,
High tackle.
that or when to card.
Okay, before you play that, Amanda, just, let's context it.
Okay.
This is the beginning of the second half. In the last 10 minutes of the first half, Colorado had committed 4 different, but all defensive, around the tackle ruck penalties. Tackler not rolling, side entry, offside. And so now we've just had a penalty about 35 meters out against Colorado, who are now, in their own end. And should there have been something at that one, or then you play it and see what happens?
Place. Entry.
No, sir.
Okay. We never 10. Never 10. Okay. Okay, so it's penalty for not 10. And we're gonna take the mark up here. Okay. 10.
Okay. So we want a card for the not 10.
Well,
And potentially
what we're
early.
wondering about is, should we have done anything sooner to make Colorado aware of our concern about a pattern?
Well, yes, if it's repeated infringement and causing them, they're like right in their green zone. Yes, like, I'm their coach, and I feel like if it's a repeat infringement causing them from scoring try, yes, a yellow card should be given. As you should, like this point right here, like stop the game, or like before that you say, okay, Colorado, this is your second one, your third one, next one you're gonna go to pin, and then this happens right here. That's when, I feel like, we get penalized. Yes, I saw that, like it's a repeat infringement. Yeah, like, should card it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
For a
the
repeated
the
infringement.
side entry penalty definitely could have been a repeat infringement card. The not 10 was a card all by itself.
Mhm.
If that could not
It
10 happen
doesn't
in
need to
the
be-
first minute of the game, that's a card. Given
Yeah,
how
somebody-
close it is to the goal line, it's only like 6 meters out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a card.
Mhm.
No brainer.
Perfect. Dan, what do we have here? High tackle?
Yep.
Any intro needed?
No, I'll do it after, unless Peter, you want to say
So I
something.
was just gonna say that you're now, 22, 23 minutes in. There have been 2 high tackles already by the Amazons. And take it from there.
Nope, time is out. Yep. It's okay, Yeah, just repeat infringement. We've got dominant tackle. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Did I hear dominant tackle?
Did say dominant tackle.
Yeah. Like if there's difference, high tackle or dominant tackle. Dominant tackle, I'll take the dominant tackle any day, but not a high tackle. So yeah.
So we're happy with the card there, Peter?
I would have been happier with a more formal warning, because that was a pretty marginal high tackle penalty.
Okay,
There
despite
wasn't head contact. First contact was at the shoulders, may have slipped up, may not have. It's a tough video.
Is that the one with Johnson, right? I think so.
Yes.
Yes, you were right. Yeah, I think it was a dominant tackle. It's just it wasn't high tackle. I think. Yeah, I totally agree on that. On the very dominant tackle, but it wasn't. It was, you know, not a high, marginal. I think.
Yeah. I know we're running short on time. I don't like the language that I used. I wish I had not said repeat infringement and then said dominant tackle. I wish I had used the head contact framework. So indirect contact to the head, a high degree of force, and then saying either like the ball carrier like dropped before or not for mitigation. But I did not. So there's a opportunity to improve the like communication or language that we use, because dominant tackle doesn't have anything. I won't say anything, but that's not part of the high tackle or head contact framework.
This might be something that you work on with your coach, get a bunch of clips and just start working on your wording in the moment using the high tackle framework. So what's this one? Sorry, did you see what I pulled up?
No.
Says BCNR.
Ball carrier not released.
Sixth grade.
So I'm assuming this is a clip where Dan has made a quick call, and Peter, you disagree with it?
I was unhappy with the tackler. I don't think the tackler had cleared away enough.
Okay.
This is the first half.
Let me see if I can zoom in on that because it's not really hard to see.
It is hard to see. And it's tough when they're both having dark jerseys.
For me, just looking at an expected outcome, I expect Colorado to keep the ball here. So the call is surprising.
Sixth grade.
Roll away.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Colorado gets quick ball. So,
I didn't put this in, or we didn't talk about this, Dan, but the timing of some of the penalties was a little quick. And I think the only time you really want to do a quick penalty without taking another moment to make sure of the situation is if you got a clear tackler not rolling. Everything else, you got several factors you need to take into account. So that was it for our clips.
Okay.
Amanda, can I say a quick thing, please?
Yes.
The advantage, Dan, I noticed that you blow the whistle really early and not giving a lot of advantage and stuff. My team likes transition ball, and I know all the team does as well too. I think those are areas that we really work on, those turnovers, the knock-ons, turnover, transition to get our attack. I think most of our go forward and we work on is our transition, and you blow the whistle early on those knock-ons, blow the whistle on these advantage and stuff. Like I would love to see a little bit more time with the advantage so that we can, because it's like for instance, a good team like really work on defense, try to get a turnover, and when we get that turnover and we blow the whistle, and then it eliminates the fact that we want to get this is part of our attack, is this turnover and stuff. So maybe go from there, because we as a team, we work really hard on those transition and we take advantage seriously, and those are balls that I think most of our tries and a lot of teams try comes away is those transition turnovers. So We didn't get that much in this game, and of course it was raining and a lot of knock-ons and stuff, but we didn't get a lot of those advantage to be on our favor, even with them too, like with the opposition as well. Like we tend to blow the whistle a little bit early and not give it advantage and stuff. But
Okay.
that's
I think as a group, we do want to play a lot of scrum advantage. When it comes to penalty advantage, we try to be fairly selective with what penalty advantages we play, because like less than 20% of penalty advantage actually works out. So you just end up playing for 30 seconds to a minute, and then you have to come back for it. So
yeah,
I appreciate your thoughts, for sure. Thanks for being here, Mose.
Thanks for having me. This is
Always
pretty awesome.
welcome.
Yeah, come.
Seriously, input's always useful.
We
I like
are out of time, so I am just going to wrap up really quickly. My thoughts from the week, what's going well. I thought that we identified a lot of foul play this week. I don't believe I saw a single dangerous tackle that was not penalized. I was also pretty happy with 2 of the obstructions that we caught. The teams are running those blocking lines, and we need to be aware. Scrums, I was really happy with some of the ones we chose to play on. Kind of funny, we ended up talking about a lot of scrums today. Again, let's keep our focus on positioning and making sure we're in the right place to see the things. WPL moves at a particular speed, and it's a great place to work on where you should stand. Finally, opportunities for improvement this week. Obviously, management, trending, and when we give cards is always something that we can work on. We did have some really good ones, I thought. Mike's penalty try was great. And I think Millie had a card too that I thought was excellent. Let's make sure our penalty counts were up this week across the board. Let's make sure that when we are calling penalties that they are clear and obvious. Grandma in the stands saw the penalty. Do not insert yourself unless you have to. Next week, round 5, or unless anybody had thoughts on those items. We're good. Half of you fell asleep because you're on East Coast time. Round 5 coming up. Tim Liu gets out in the middle for his first weekend. We see Jenny Liu again. She's at home, and Lindsay Oliver travels to Chicago. So congratulations. I look forward to seeing everybody this week.
Good luck, yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording.